So good morning and welcome back guys. My name is Akriti and today we will be solving one more question on array. So today's question is question number 496, next greater element. Okay. So the question is here, you can see. Um, the question is next greater element of sum. Here they are defining what is next greater element, and we are given with a two zero index array, namely nums1 and nums2, whereas nums1 is a subset of nums2. So you can see here in the example given below that nums1 is 412 and nums2 include all the elements of nums1. So nums2 is a superset, or we can say nums1 is a subset of nums2. Okay. Now what they're saying we have for each element, we have to iterate over nums1 starting from 0 until its length, and we have to find the index j such that the nums1 of I is equals to nums2 of j, and we have to determine the next greater element of nums2 in nums2. Okay, if there's no greater element, then we have to return -1 and return an array of length this. So okay, what question is saying that we have an two vectors nums1 and nums2. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to iterate over nums1 and we have to find at which index the element of nums1 are present in their nums2. Okay, like for example, let's talk about the first elements of nums1. So first element is 4, so we have to find at which index in nums2 4 is present. So we can see 0 1 2, 4 is present at 2 index. Okay, now let's talk about 1. So we have to find at which index in nums2 1 is present. So 1 is present at 0 index. Similarly, we have to find index of all the elements of nums1 in nums2. And after that, what we have to do, when we will find all the index of element of nums1 in nums2, um, we have to find the next greater element of all those elements which are present in nums1. Okay, like in nums1 412 are present, so we have to find a next greater element of all these elements in nums2. Like let's talk about 4. So next greater element of 4 is there's no next greater element for 4 because in the right side of the 4 only 2 is present, and of course 2 is not greater than 4. So the next greater there is no next greater element of 4. So in this case, what we have to do, we have to return -1 in this case. Okay, so we will be returning -1. Now let's talk about 1. The next greater element of 1 is 3, so in this case we will be returning 3. And now let's talk about 2. So next greater element of 2, so like you can see, 2 is the last element of the nums2, so there won't be any next greater element of 2. So in the case of 2 as well, we will be returning 1. So that's what we have to return. We have to return an array which will be containing the next greater element of all the elements of nums1 in nums2. Okay, I hope you guys got the question. You can refer to these example given below. Okay, so how we are going to tackle this question? We will be solving this question using stack as well as using maps. So if you guys are not familiar with this stack as well as this maps in CPP, so I will recommend you to first learn the concept of maps as well as in stack, and then come back to the solution. Okay. So let's start with the explanation of solution. Here I've prepared a explanation for you guys for this question. So these are the steps which we are going to follow. Okay, there's the eraser. Here it is. Okay. So these are the steps which we are going to follow. So first of all, what we have to do, we have to iterate over the array nums2. here you can see nums2 is given, so we have to iterate over nums2 from the last index of nums2. Okay, so like we will be starting from 2 and then 4 and then 3 and then 1. Okay, so after this what we have to do, we have to check if the stack is empty or not. So this is our stack, and we can see right now our stack is empty. So if our stack is found empty, then what we have to do, we have to keep checking if the top element of the stack is greater than the element in nums2 which we are checking for or not. Okay, like here we are starting from 2, so we will be checking if the top element of the stack is greater than 2 or not. So we have to keep checking it until either our stack become empty or we will find such a top element of the stack which is greater than num1. Okay, and after this we have to, after this checking, we have to check if the stack is empty or not. So if our stack is empty, we have to put the next greater element of that particular element as -1, like we were talking about 2. So if our stack will found empty, we will push -1 as a next greater element of 2 in this map which we have made for next greater element. And otherwise if our stack is not empty, then we will be pushing the topmost element of our stack. Okay, and at the end of this we have to push the element of the nums2 in our stack. So this is what we are going to do. I have make a stack, I have declared a stack, I have declared a map which will be storing the next greater element of all the which will be storing the next greater element of all the elements of the nums2. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the last element of the nums2, which is 2. So here we can see in the initial state our stack is empty. So this case is not there for us right now. Our stack is empty. If our stack is empty, then what we have to do? We have to put -1 in a next greater element array. So this is the map of the next greater element, and in case for the element 2 we have to put -1 as its next greater than element, and in the end what we have to do, we have to push that particular element in our stack. So we will be pushing here too. Okay, so go. So we will be pushing here 2. Now our stack has 2 as a topmost element. Now let's talk about 4. As we reaches 4, we will check if our stack is empty or not. So of course right now our stack is not empty. So we will keep checking until we will find the topmost element which is greater than 4. So we can see there's only one element in our stack which is of course less than 4. So what we will do, we will pop that element. Okay, and we have to pop that element. So we will compare if that element is greater than 4 or not. If it's not greater than 4, then we will pop this element. So let's suppose I have removed this element from our stack, and what we will do now, again I'll check if our stack is empty. So now as you can see our stack has become empty, then we will be passing -1 as an greater element of 4, and we will push 4 in our stack. So now I have pushed 4 in my stack. So now my stack has only 4 because we have popped up 2 from our stack. Now let's talk about 3. So in case of 3, we can see our stack is not empty, so we will check if the topmost element of stack is greater than 3 or not. So of course here we can see 4 is greater than 3. Then what we are going to do, topmost element is greater than 3, and what we are going to do, uh, we will be running this loop until we find that element. So here you can see we have found that element which is greater than 3, and what we are gonna do, we are gonna put that particular element the topmost element of our stack is the next greater element of 3. So here you can see we will be pushing 4 as an greater element of 3, and we will push, or we will also push 3 in our stack. So here we are pushing 3. Now our stack is has 2 elements. Now let's talk about 1. Okay, so here we are talking about 1. We can see we will be checking if stack is empty or not. So here you can see a stack is not empty. Now we will check if the topmost element of the stack, which is in our case 3, is greater than 1 or not. So of course it is greater than 1. Now we will be coming out of this loop because we found that particular element which is greater than 1. And now here we will be checking if stack is empty or not. So you can see of course stack is not empty. So what we are going to do, we are going to push 3, I like the topmost element of the stack as an isolated element of the 1. So here we are putting 3 and we will push 1 in a stack. And now you can see we have found the next greater element of all the elements in nums2. Okay, it was a nums2 and we have found all the next greater element of, we have find the next greater element of all the elements in nums2. Okay, as you can see all the elements are like next greater element of 1 is 3, so we got 3, and next greater element of 3 is 4, so we got 4 here. Next greater element of 4 is nothing, so we got -1, and 2 is nothing, so we got -1. So now after this what we are going to do, as we have created as we have prepared a map which will be containing the next greater element of all the elements in nums2. Now we will be checking on, now we will loop through the nums1 and we will check if we will starting from the 4 1 and 2, we will iterate over nums1. And we will because in the question it was mentioned that we have to return the next greater elements of all the elements in nums1 which are present in nums2. Okay, so the common element between num1 and num2 is 4 1 2, you can see. So we have to only only 4 1 and 2 are in our use, 3 is not in our use. So we don't have to pass the next greater element of all the elements of num. So in fact we have to find the next greater elements of all the elements in nums1. So what we are going to do, we are going to iterate over nums1 and we will be checking in this map for the next greater elements of that particular element, and then we will push that element in our result array, and then we will return. So I hope you guys got the solution. Now let's code it. Okay, so what was our first step? As you can see, we have to declare a map to another map. Let's call it another map, and let's call it empty. Okay, let's make a stack. Now what we had to do, we had to iterate over elements of nums2 from the very last element. For I equal nums2 dot size -1. Okay, so nums2 dot size -1. Okay, I should be greater than equals to 0 and I minus, because we had to start from the very last element of nums2. Now what we have to check, we have to loop while our stack is not empty, while uh, not of s dot empty, I meant empty. Okay, and topmost element s dot top is uh, less than nums2 of I. Okay, while these two conditions are maintained, we have to continue this loop. Okay, and what we have to do, we have to pop our element out. So s dot pop. Once we find that particular element which is less than the topmost element of our stack, or our stack become empty, what we have to do, we have to check if our stack is empty or not. So if s dot empty is true, then what we have to do, next greater element, the map, let's call it map only. Okay, so we have to pass that particular element map of nums2 of I equal -1. Okay. Otherwise, what we have to do? We have to pass map of nums2 of I equal as dot top. I is the topmost element of the stack. And at last, what we had to do? We had to push that particular element in a stack to stack dot push nums2 of I. Okay. After that, we had to declare a vector array as well. Oops, it's not the syntax. Vector int result. Okay, we have declared a vector which is for storing a result as well. Now what we have to do? We have to loop over nums1 for auto element in nums1. Okay. Result dot pushback map of nums1 of map of element. Okay, and at last we will be returning result. We have came out of this loop and this loop as well, and now we have to return our result. Now let's check what happened. So I guess we are done with our coding, and now we are checking what's the problem. Now why will construct a reduction guide for the reduction of template argument of stack. Is this not a way to declare the stack? Or we are doing something wrong? Let me check. Okay, this is not the way to declare stack. We have to give the data type as well. Okay, stack. Now here we have not declared I num2 size int I should have written. These are some mistakes which you will repeat again and again. But let it be. Now what's the problem? I have not given the name, I guess. In our stack int s. I've given the name. I have given. Okay, so top is a function. It's not a variable. Again, as dot top somewhere else I have also written. Top is a function in the stack. Now you can say it as this is a pass. Let me submit. Let's see if it's accepting our answer or not. Okay, so it's accepted. So I hope you guys got the solution well. This is the brief steps which we have followed in our solution. If you didn't get anything, then I will suggest you to watch the video again and um, try to understand the solution as I have explained each and everything step by step. And if you guys face any problem or have any doubt or queries, feel free to ask in comment box. Thank you so much.